All right, hey everybody! Thank you so much for showing up today. Welcome to Southern California MUFON, our monthly meeting. It's the first Sunday of the month. Thank you so much for signing up ahead of time and showing up on time. This month, our theme is contact, and we have some friends of ours from the ERT division of MUFON who are going to talk to you today, and some about witnessing, experiencing, and
Jeez.
contact in general. I'm not going to talk too much today. I'm going to step out of the way. I'm going to hand this over to our chief investigator, CJ, and she's going to introduce a few of our guests for you. And I think she has a few things she wants to say as well. So, CJ, go ahead and take it over.
Thanks, Gino. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. Good to see you. Welcome to Southern California MUFON's public meeting for the month of February 2026. To ensure distraction-free meeting, you've all been manually muted by the host, and the speakers will be unmuted to speak. When the meeting is over, we will unmute folks, and you should be able to, share your phone numbers in the chat box if you want to, or any other information you want to share with each other in the chat box. Also, participants are not allowed to record this meeting or any portion of the meeting. I think last time someone was holding a cell phone up. Don't do that because we'll kick you out and you won't be able to get back in. If you are found recording this meeting, blah, 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 you get it. We'll kick you out. You won't get back. You'll be missing out on all the fun. Okay, so I'm CJ, Chief Investigator for Southern California MUFON, and also I help coordinate DOC and ER cases in the area, or ERT cases in the area. Um, if you're a field investigator, wave and say hi. These are the Southern California field investigators in the area. These are the ones that are working on your cases, solving them, trying to get you to call us back. And just thanks everybody, all the field investigators that are here. I know Rhonda said she's having an issue, and when I'm done making announcements, I'm going to help Rhonda get back in the room if she can't. Um, Shout out to San Diego MUFON. They're on Facebook. And I believe they're going to be working on getting some meetings going soon online and maybe even in person. So if you're in the San Diego region and you want to be involved on more of a local level, check out San Diego MUFON and find their Facebook page. Also, just to bring to everyone's attention, there are a lot of like fake people out there. There's Facebook pages and groups that are meeting. They say MUFON. They call themselves MUFON. Orange County is one of these groups. They're not really associated with MUFON. I believe the Orange County group had nobody was even a MUFON member in that group for a long time. One person just joined. But a lot of these people are just using the name to book guests and charge you a fee to go to a meeting. So please, just if you're not sure, or even if you are sure, just check MUFON, find a chapter, and the legitimate chapters and groups are listed there. And if you have a group and you would like to be listed there, reach out to us, reach out to on MUFON.com, and we would love to help facilitate you getting your official MUFON chapter or meeting going. We would love to facilitate that, and we would love to help you with that. So, just wanted to mention that. Let's see, what else do we have? Donations and support. So there's no charge. We're never going to charge you, but we do obviously accept donations. We have a website, and that, is being paid for out of pocket by the state director and other expenses. So anything you can donate, I'll be dropping links into the chat box in just a little bit. But $2, $5, $10 more if you're wealthy, we would love it. But it really just helps us to continue functioning and keeping meetings like this going forward. And right now we don't have like our own private nonprofit set up. So you just donate to Gino, our state director, and I'll drop his, and just make sure you put in the notes like MUFON, that you were at the MUFON meeting, and he'll know exactly where to put the money. Um, so let's see. Another way you can show your support is by clicks. Visit our website, visit our Facebook page, like the post. That's just another way that you help us increase our reach. And it's just another way that you can be supportive of Southern California MUFON. We're on Instagram, Facebook. We haven't really posted. We have a YouTube channel, but we haven't posted there. But MUFON has a YouTube channel, and there's a lot of great content on there. So check it out. And it's all free on the YouTube channel, the official MUFON. If you would like to become a member, an official MUFON member, I know there was problems, and I get why people may not have been members. It was very difficult to make a payment in California for a while. That's been fixed. Now everybody can easily sign up for auto payments, whatever you have to do to become a MUFON member. So please just, if you're interested, you can just go to the website. I don't know if they're still doing it, but they were talking about a 15% discount for California members since there were so many issues in the past, whether you're new or old. Okay, good. Rhonda's getting, just so you know, Rhonda will be here in a minute. Okay. So I believe the least expensive membership is $6.89 a month or $59.88 per year. And it comes with, you get the e-journal, email updates monthly, stuff like that. And you get access to the members only portion of the website. So it's not a lot, but it's pretty cool to be able to see the cases, or at least the skeletons, the bones of the cases. Um, Let's see. So if you want to file a report, obviously you know where to go, MUFON.com, and at the top of the page, you can't miss it. You just fill out a report, whether you've seen a UFO or feel that you've had contact of some sort. And a shout out to the Wow Signal News and Dan Harari, one of our big supporters and friends and partners with MUFON. So it's the Wow Signal .news, and they post a bunch of UFO news and press releases and things like that. Oh, Susan Alloway's in the waiting room. Someone let Susan Alloway, and I'm just staring at her name. Susan Alloway, the Jackrabbit case. So one of the things I thought I'd mention really quick is we've got some SpaceX launches for the month of February, and I'll even drop, you can sign up. I get text to my phone. You can get text if you're in California and or Kennedy, letting you know there's one tomorrow going to be going off February 2nd, February 6th. These are the California ones. February 10th and February 14th are the ones that are right now scheduled for Southern California. So I'll drop the link in the chat box a little later, and you can go check them out and read on what's getting launched into the skies. I already mentioned MUFON's official YouTube channel. If you're born in the months of January or February, happy birthday to all of you. And if you have any questions at all, just feel free to email me, mufoncj@gmail.com or socalmufon@gmail.com. I check both of those email addresses. If you have a question, if you want any of the links that I've given you, if you're interested in becoming a field investigator, if you want to become an experiencer resource team member, if you want to get involved in some way, just email me and let's talk. Okay, Mike, I believe you were gonna do some stats right before I do any introductions, correct?
Yeah, if I won't take too much time because I know we're excited to talk to our wonderful guests, but
Mm-hmm.
I am a stats junkie and I love to share that with the world. So hopefully you should be able to now see my screen, right?
Yes.
Great, great. So this is for the January only. Worldwide, sightings reported to MUFON. Total of 408 cases, and 316 were in the U.S. Nice little map here to show the different areas. To remind everybody, this isn't just a United States thing. This is a humanity thing. Um, but as we go into states. Um, as always, California's at the top with 36 reports in the month of January. Texas number two, and I don't know. Pennsylvania took over Florida for 1 month. Florida's usually number three. Pennsylvania, so we're gonna have to look into that. See what the hell happened in Pennsylvania in January that they took Florida reports. That's pretty wild. Um, but nonetheless. Then we have the shapes, also fairly standard. Circle and sphere are pretty common. As I always say, circle is just like a literal circular object, but the sphere is a perceived three-dimensional aspect to it, such as a beach ball. That's the difference between circle sphere. 28 triangles were reported. Let's see, what else do we have? The discs, 28 discs, 28 triangles. Boomerangs, I like the chevrons and boomerangs too. Six. So, I mean, we got some pretty interesting shapes. It's tough sometimes to know about this the balls and the spheres and such, but the other shapes are always quite interesting. That's pretty much it for the stats for the month of January. So back to
Cool. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, those just came out this morning. So, thanks, Mike, for sharing that. So, this is a meeting that we're going to focus on the Experiencer Resource Team. Introducing you, Doc Medich is going to speak for a few minutes, and he is the director of MUFON's Experiencer Resource Team. And then we have two amazing experiencers that are going to each share their story for about 30 minutes each. Doc, why don't you first let anyone here know who doesn't already know what is MUFON's Experiencer Resource Team? Tell them about it. What do we
Really
do?
glad to do that. Thank you. Thank
Thank you.
you. You were talking about February. You know, February the 2nd is a big day in Pennsylvania. It's Groundhog Day. I don't know if any of you know that. And supposedly the groundhog, if he sees his shadow, means 6 more weeks of winter. But it just so happens the vernal equinox is 6 weeks after February 2nd. So I don't know if anybody ever realized that, but it's a big spoof. The Experiencer Resource Team was begun by Kathy Martin in 2011 in response to people calling MUFON and asking them for assistance for issues that developed during non-human contact. There was there was nothing in place at that time to help people who were obviously quite upset about their encounters. So Kathy Martin, who I think was the director of training at that time, who's the niece of Betty and Barney Hill, was charged with setting up some kind of a system to assist these people with their issues related to this non-human contact. I was probably the fifth member to join. Back then, I think we just had a few people around on the it was called the Abduction Research Team at that point. And then Kathy got a hold of me, and first job she gave me was to pass out the experiencer questionnaires. Now, if you don't know what that is, there's a form on the MUFON website that an experiencer can go to and fill out that will be forwarded to me by the CMS administrators, and then I distribute them to the Experiencer Resource Team. We have 71 people who respond to these questionnaires. All of them are very knowledgeable about abduction. We can put people in contact with certified hypnotherapists, support groups, and we try to help them as best we can. We do not investigate cases like field investigators do. Our charge, our purpose of existence is to help these people deal with what has happened to them. And as you can imagine, we get some pretty good cases. You know, we have our share of people who need some interaction with our professional psychological panel, but those are few and far between. We have about 15 people who are either consultants or paramedical people, psychologists, psychiatrists, medical doctors who we can refer to if there's any questions that we have, for example, regarding a mental status. You know, if somebody that puts in a questionnaire, we're not really sure if they might be schizophrenic, if they may be bipolar. So we have these people that we can pick up the phone and call, and they can give us a professional opinion. Right now, we have about 85 members, and it's grown quite a bit since those five when I joined back in 2014. So we're on the rise, and we're still looking for members. We don't have a member in every state. I saw a couple of people here from Maryland. You know, if you're interested in ERT, just send me an email. And if you meet the qualifications, I'll send you an application for membership. So we're still trying to fill up the holes that we have. But like I said, we're not limited by state boundaries like field investigators are. We can take cases from just about all over the world, and we get cases from all over the world. Believe me, it's just we get cases from Bangladesh, from Sudan, from Iran. We get them from all over the world. The Experiencer questionnaire is found on the MUFON website. If you click on Report an Abduction, you'll see the ERT website come up. And there'll be pictures and bios of most of the ERT members. It's still a work in progress because we've admitted a lot of new members. And with this new edition of the computer system coming out, there's been a little bit of lag of updating that. But if you want to see what we look like, you can look at that page. You're talking about stats, Mike. Last year we had close to 800 experiencer questionnaires submitted. And that's roughly about 65, 68 cases per month. We're usually pretty busy. One of the really interesting things that happened to us was, I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago when that Ancient Aliens episode that featured MUFON was on. For that 1 month alone, we got 140 questionnaires, which was a record. And the day after the thing was on, I got 19 of them, which was kind of like, be careful what you pray for. You may get it. And we got clobbered with that. So I think there's another one coming on too that's related to some of the things that we talked about, but I'm bracing for that. Let's see, monthly Zoom meetings. We have monthly Zoom meetings like this for the ERT, and we bring in speakers every month because that's the only way we can get educated. we don't have any textbooks that we can refer to. We read the literature. We've read all the popular books, that most people have read, but there's no formal form of education. So we have these monthly Zoom meetings, and we invite people to speak. And we've had, anybody you can imagine: Richard Dolan, Daryl Sims, Gary Nolan, anybody. We'll ask anybody to come talk to us so we can learn something. And we have a couple ER team members here in existence. I saw Mike DeGanis and CJ and Mike Risso are all ER team members. We're really lucky to have you guys. Southern California, really busy, really busy. I don't know what's going on out there, but you guys are rolling. We have two more people in Northern California, Dev Runge and Valerie Benko. So California is well represented with us, and we're glad to have all of you. Feel very fortunate to have you as members. And that's about it for me. And I'll shut up and take the questions at the end.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Doc. Okay, so now we're going to have the first of two experiencers who are going to share their story with you. And I love her. I don't even know when, but a few years ago, I saw a video of her long ago, like young, hanging out with her family on the porch that I think Bud Hopkins filmed and brought maybe a news crew down or something like that. And I was just kind of obsessed, a little bit obsessed. And so I got, the book, or you can't read it because I got my thing, but Intruders, which is Bud Hopkins' book, which is about Deb Jordan Kauble, although in the book, her name is Kathy Davis. And I don't know, she just has one of the most, to me, compelling. There's tons of witnesses involved, evidence on the ground. Like if you've never heard a story of abduction, it's a great one to learn about first, or contact, whatever you want to call it. There's lots of words out there. Just um, but Deb, I think I'm going to turn it over to you. Deb's going to speak to you guys for about 30 minutes and share whatever she wants to share. I want you guys to know about her story and who she is. And does she need help unmuting, or is she cool?
Uh,
There you
can
go.
you hear me?
Yep. All yours, Deb. Thank you for coming, Deb.
Well, thank you for asking me. I appreciate it. My case is an old one. Um, I'm like one of the OG, I guess, left. Um, the event of June 30th, 1983 is why I'm here, pretty much, even though I've had an entire lifetime of weird things happen to me and my whole family. But I grew up thinking it was normal. I didn't really realize that everybody didn't see odd things once in a while or have what is thought of as paranormal experiences. And then the event of June 30th, 1983 was different because it was explosive in a way, and it was life changing for me. And that was because of that event, I met a guy named Bud Hopkins. Um, the event of June 30, 83 left a mark in my parents' backyard that lasted for several years. Snow melted off of it. For the first year after that, it damaged my eyes. And by the time I was in my late 30s, I was diagnosed with cataracts and macular degeneration. And had to have my lenses replaced. My dog that was out there with me that night, she eventually had to be put to sleep because she got really sick and her teeth fell out and her hair fell out and everything. There were two witnesses, two different neighbors, one across the street and one next door, who witnessed bright flash and loud noise at that same time. And then 20 years later, after Intruders was written, Bud got a letter from a woman who lived right behind us, on the street behind us, telling us that her kids had been out spending the night in the garage. Her boys like to sleep in the garage with their buddies on the weekend, and their garage open door faced the back of our house. And these were large lots with a little bit of wooded area between some of the houses. And these boys came running in, screaming and terrified one evening because they told the mother that they'd seen hundreds of white basketball-sized balls of white light floating around the woods between our house and them. And she told Bud in the letter that those boys never slept out in the garage again. And she couldn't specifically say the date, but it was around the same time frame as when this happened in 83. Um, After I saw the mark in the yard, um, and started to remember things that I'd like put away in my head because they were just weird things and I didn't know what they meant. Uh, eh, also had remembered that I had picked a book up one time called Missing Time that Bud had written. And in the back of the book was an address where you could write to him. Now, I could never finish that book because I kept having panic attacks. And I had already been struggling with anxiety, like a generalized anxiety. Um, and I really, after June 30, 83, I thought I was having a nervous breakdown. I was sick, my eyes were messed up. I was trying to figure out what happened to me. And I decided to reach out to that guy because I was hoping that he could tell me what it wasn't. I was hoping he could tell me that it wasn't what I thought it was, and it wasn't what he had written about. Um, so I wrote to him, and I think he got my letter in September of that year. And then he called. When he got the letter, he called us. He spoke to me, he spoke to my mom, he spoke to my sister eventually. And he he wanted to do an investigation on this case, and then as we told him other things that we had experienced, and in particular my older sister who'd had a very striking UFO witness event in 1965 where she said she pulled into the back of a church parking lot. She felt compelled to, and when she got back there and she looked up, there was a silver disc UFO above her car, and it lifted her whole car up. And the next memory she had was several hours later, she's in her car. It's now dark out, and it's time to go get my mom from the bingo game, which she had took her to before she pulled in the parking lot. So uh, he decided to come out to the house and do his investigation. And I did first thing, I think I went to New York first, and I had to sell my washer and dryer that I had in storage because I was a single mom at that point, and I had moved back home with my parents and was trying to get my life together. And I didn't really have time for all this. And so I was hoping this guy could help me. So I sold my washer and dryer and I got a bus ticket and I went to New York. And I can tell you, halfway to New York, I had a panic attack and I just about got off the bus and went back home because I started thinking to myself, what are you doing? This guy could be some kind of axe murderer. You don't know him. He wrote a book about aliens, for God's sake. You're a mother. You get it together. I was massive panic attack, but I got to New York and I remember when I got off of the bus and he was standing there with a cup of coffee in his hand and a bag of muffins. And in retrospect, he must have been thinking maybe kind of the same thing about me because he, instead of taking me to his studio where I ended up staying when I was there, he took me right to Dr. Clamar's office first, right out of the bus, the psychiatrist that he had trained with to learn how to do hypnosis. And she interviewed me. She was very kind, and I had never had any experience with hypnosis myself personally. So she kind of put me in a light trance that night, that day, mainly just helped me relax because I was so wound up at that point. Didn't remember anything particular, but I did learn that hypnosis was not what I thought it was, and that gave me some comfort. So anyway, the investigation ensued. Bud came to Indiana a few times and interviewed neighbors and coworkers and other family members and and me. And he took soil sample tests, and eventually, about I guess maybe almost not quite 2 years later, was able to get soil samples tested. Even then, almost 2 years after the fact, it the soil had to be put in an oven at 800 degrees for about 6 hours to even get remotely like the soil in the yard. That soil in that mark would not accept water at all, and nothing would grow in it. I still have some hunks of it, as a matter of fact. because when we dug up samples, I, for some reason, thought I would need these someday. So, and they survived the tornado because I was in a tornado in 2013, lost everything except a few things, and that was one of the things I didn't lose. But anyway, after about 2.5 years of his research, and I'm telling you, even though Bud was an artist, you know, he wasn't a scientist or an academic or anything like that, but he left no stone unturned. Uh, he was compassionate and empathic, and he cared about us. And so he really worked hard. He contacted people that did know. He got me in touch with I had a psychological testing at the hospital in New York with psychiatrists, like 6 hours of verbal and written psychological testing. He managed to arrange for me to have a EEG where they put the wires on your head, and I think it was a CAT scan of my brain, and later, years later, an MRI. And he even arranged for me to have a voice stress test with a person here in Indiana. So, I mean, he did everything he could do investigation wise and spent all his own money to do it because I didn't have any, and all of his time. And he also hooked me up in the meantime with a like a buddy. He had a buddy system that he had set up with people, and so he had introduced me to this lady who had gone through things I'd been through, but she'd been a lot farther down than me. You know, she was getting along a lot better than me and older than me. Because I was like 24 at the time when this happened, and I'm 67 now, so it's been a minute. So, and back then we didn't have the internet, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have anything like we have now. I mean, I was here in Indiana, and even though I was blessed to have my family around me and friends and I had support most people like me didn't, you know, it was still kind of like being on an island. So Bud, you know, he got me set up with a support system that changed my life and meant the world to me, you know, and helped me so much. So he came to the family about 2.5 years in and said, you know, this is a really important case. I want to write a book. And all of us as a family were first like, I don't think so. Because that wasn't the whole point of this to begin with. I just wanted a normal life. I just wanted some help, you know. But he convinced us that this would be helpful to a lot of people over time, and that he promised to protect us. So in the book Intruders, every name, even the name of the place, is a pseudonym to protect us, and especially my kids at the time. They were little. And the book came out, I think, in 87. And then there was a miniseries in 1992. But that miniseries only took a few scenes out of the book. It wasn't really my whole story, just so you know. But it exposed a lot of people to this phenomenon that would not have been exposed to it before. So I was grateful for that anyway, because it was on mainstream media and it was actually done respectfully. The woman who played me in this miniseries was named Mary Winningham. She actually called me twice because she wanted to make sure that she was going to play my scenes with what I went through respectfully and correctly. And I was very appreciative of that. Um, oh, so the book finally came out, and in the meantime, while he was writing the book and the investigation was underway, something in me started changing. I started changing. I started having these episodes where I would hear words or see designs, or ideas would come in my head, and I couldn't function or continue on doing what I was doing until I wrote them down. So I started carrying a notebook with me and a sketch pad, and I would draw these symbols and these images that I would see in my mind, and I would write down these thoughts and ideas that I had. And this went on for a couple years pretty intensely. Paranormal activity ramped up around me. It was ridiculous. I mean, just around the whole family. And these changes in me it was a struggle at first, and I looked back on it now, and it was like I almost felt like I died. The old me died that night when I got hit by that light that blinded me, and the new me was born, and it was really rough birth at first, but I got through it. One of the things that I recalled being told, so to speak, was that fear would slow my process. So I worked very hard to not be afraid. And as I did that, and as I changed, my experience changed. My experiences changed. I think the last physical contact that I had was in 1993, perhaps, right after I had a hysterectomy, and it was my late husband and our housemate and her daughter at the farmhouse in Kokomo. And we had heard the cows were going crazy out at the barn, and we kept hearing this beeping sound, and we went outside, and he was trying to record the sound, and I was standing at the edge of the driveway, still in a bathrobe because I'd been ill, and I thought I saw a deer walking towards me down the country road in the moonlight, straight ahead of me. And then on the recording, you could hear me say something. I cuss. I'm sorry, but I said like, "The hell is that?" And you can hear my housemates or my house guest's daughter scream, the little girl, and then the 18 minutes of the tape is gone, and the next thing you hear is my late husband trying to record the cows and the beeping sound at the barn and talking to a guy on the ham radio who said and trying to ask him if he's seeing the lights that were in the sky. So it was a crazy night, but I wasn't alone. This didn't happen to just me. Most of the time I've had these weird experiences, it hasn't been just me. It's been other people with me. But there was a change in me emotionally, mentally, psychologically, spiritually. Everything about me has changed. And my BFF of 60 almost years, I mean, we met each other when I was 10. Um, she would tell you today that I'm not even the same person I was before June 30, 83. And I wasn't, I mean, I have my IQ tests from school. I think I was 13, I scored 111. But when I was 34, I scored 141, and I got invited to become a member of Mensa. So I've been a member of Mensa since 1993. I would have never even thought to try, but my late husband said that I should. Um, I started having lucid dreams. And, I stopped having physical events, started having lucid dreams, and other psychic things started happening to me. I started to feel things from people. I started to be able to sense things. And the more I practiced it and trusted it, the sharper it got. And I'm continue on that way as we speak right now. Um, I've it's transformed how I look at humans, how humanity, how I look at the world, how I look at people, how I look at everything that's alive, and I feel this connectedness with it. I'm not religious. I was never religious. My dad was a Catholic altar boy, and my mom was a Pentecost. And when they got married, when they were 19 and 16, their churches said bye because that's the way it was. So we weren't raised in a religious background. My dad was psychic, and my mom used to play cards with us, flashcards. But instead of holding up a card and saying, "What color is this triangle?" she'd put it down face down and say, "What color is that triangle?" And we just did it because thought that's what you did. So my parents were unique individuals, so I'll put it that way. I mean, so I'm real lucky they were supportive of me when this started happening to me. Um, by the way, neither one of them reported ever having any kind of alien, whatever you want to call it, stuff happen. But anyway, it's changed the way I've thought about things. I get up and I write down my thoughts. Um, the way I see human beings now is like we're tube type radios in Adobe digital surround sound world. And that, I always say to people, we're I'm sitting in this office right now and I got probably 4 Wi-Fi signals going through here right now, but I don't know that. The only way I know that is because my phone tells me, because my phone is wired to receive those. So it knows that it's there. My brain's not wired to receive them, but that doesn't mean they're not there. And my attitude with what I've seen with NHI contact and the things that's happened to me from before June 30, 83, when I was a young married woman, having these come into my room with this box, these gray guys, to now, is that there's life all around us and we just can't see it all the time. But I think we have the capability in our brains to be able to. And sometimes I feel like I got a little rewire in June 30 of 83 or something. But I'm not doing anything that all of you can't do. I'm just, my switch already got flipped. I guess, I don't know, for lack of a better way to put it. Um, and I feel like I made a drawing one time called Casey's Bubbles. I had a vision. It's the only way it's the only way I know how to say it. I know it sounds crazy, but I had a vision like of a big glob of bubbles when I was playing with my kids' bubble thing one time. And something said to me, those are universes. See how they stick together and where they touch? And they said that those little places where they touch, you can go back and forth, but you have to be quick because it moves. I'm like, okay. So I wrote it down. I mean, these are things that have popped in my head, and I know they sound crazy, but I just write them down. That's how I ended up with 2 books. And the first book that I wrote with my sister, we decided to use our real names because I felt at that point, if I'm going to tell people what I remember, what I know, what I think about, I got to own it. I can't expect anyone to even listen to me if I'm not going to use my real name. So I just did. And it is what it is. I understand a lot of the things that I talk about. Sometimes people are like, oh man, that sounds crazy. I get it. And I would think that some of this stuff is a little bit out of my wheelhouse too if I hadn't experienced it or seen it for myself. So all I ever hope for when I tell my story is for people to listen. I don't expect them to believe me. I just want them to listen to me with an open mind because, one of these days you guys might find yourself in the same boat. I wasn't looking for it when it became a part of my life. I don't know. Maybe I was even born into it and I don't even realize it. But I believe that for every person out there like me who tells their stories, there's probably 50,000 that probably got crazier stories than I have, and they ain't telling nobody. So one of the reasons that I speak out now too is to help them feel more comfortable, so they know they're not alone, because there's power and strength in numbers, and the world is not what you think it is. In my opinion, this is my opinion. I don't think the world is what we see around us. I mean, we're just seeing a little tiny bit of it. And I've happened to have gotten a glimpse of some of it. Some of it's been physical and like 3D or whatever, and it's damaged the yard, damaged me. But then there's another part of it. It goes on from there. It's bigger than that. And here's a couple notes I wrote down. I believe that every thought we have, every word we speak, every action we take ripples through space and time and changes changes where we came from, and it changes where we're going. And that there's as many realities as there are people to think them up. If you can think it, it's happening somewhere because you're making it. We're participants in this whole thing. And when I began to realize things like that, that's when my contact started to change to something bigger and something better and less scary and more profound. And I just want other people like that are going through what I went through to know that if they're afraid and they're struggling, I see them and I don't want them to think that I'm, dissing their pain and their suffering. I was there, I understand that, but I want you to see me and I want you to know that it's okay and you're going to be okay. So that's why I come forward and I speak and talk about things that some people might think I'm crazy to do, but I am what it is. It is what it is. I did want to share one little thing with you before I go. I had to write it down because I'm old. And I got so much in here. Sometimes it's hard for me to keep everything straight because I mean, it is packed full. Um, I had something happen to me. Here's an example of how my contact has changed. And keep in mind, I'm not prone to like go around and hear voices all the time. That's not me. And I understand that sounds a little, you know, crazy, but they tested me and said I wasn't. So anyway, on November 30th in 2021, I was outside in the sun getting some fresh air and enjoying the last little bit of decent weather when these thoughts came in my head. I was feeling very relaxed, very really connected and zen, really connected to earth, zoned out. And all of a sudden, I heard a voice come up behind me. And I thought it was the neighbor. I pulled my earbud out and I turned around because I heard a man's voice say, "Hey, Deb." So I pulled my earbud out and I turned around and no one was there. And I'm like, okay. So I was looking around, seeing maybe some of my neighbor was trying to prank me or something in the bushes hiding. Didn't see anybody. It startled me for a minute, but then, I've I've met me. I know what things happen to me. So I mean, immediately the startled part was over with quickly, and I said, "Hello." And he started talking. And I'm like, it's not coming out of my earbud because it's in my hand. And I can hear him like he's standing next to me. And he says to me, "Hey, Deb, from the side," he said, "from this side, you look like a little bright bubble of light just floating through your daily life out here in our darkness. Y'all are bright and we see you, but you're only perceivable as light here. When you see the tiny lights, that's how we look to you from where you are. But actually, here where we are, we look just like you." And so I said, well, are you dead? Because, by this point, I'd already gotten into paranormal investigations. I record EVPs and I take photographs and things like that. So that sort of thing doesn't shock me as much. So I said, "Well, are you dead?" And he laughed. He kind of giggled and he said, "No, I'm as alive as you are." And then I said, "Well, are you one of those gray guys?" Because that's what I called the little gray guys with the big eyes. And he laughed again. And he said, "No, they're they're your future." And I said, "Well, who are you?" And that was it. End of conversation. So I stood there like stunned for a minute. I looked around to make sure that no one could see me talking to myself. And I called my best friend and told her, I'm like, "You're not going to believe what just happened." And I started typing it down on my phone notes because I keep notes. And, so that's the kind of things that happen to me now. I don't see, I don't have things land in my parents' backyard and burn my yard up anymore and blow up my eyes and all that kind of stuff. But this kind of stuff is what happens to me now. Like I said, I'm who knows what's gonna future's gonna hold for me. I keep writing and I keep expanding and I keep getting more drawn to uh, consciousness and connectedness and oneness with all living things, and including them and all the other things out there. But anyway, basically, yeah, it's really hard to tell my story because my story is from the age of 6 till now, and like I said, that's like 60 years worth. But there is, I have a website that you can go to if you want to learn more about me and some of the things I've experienced, see the drawings that I've done, um, and it's debshome.com. I've been having that website for over 20 some years, and it's a way for people that want to email me and share their stories with me. I'm there to listen to them. I'm there to listen for them. I'm here for the experiencers. I want the experiencers to be heard. Their stories are important. They are a major part of the puzzle. You can't have the experience without the experiencers. You can't have the events without the witnesses. And so you need to talk to them because they're the most important piece of data you're ever going to have. And that's the end of my talk.
Thank you very much, Deborah. It was great to hear all that, and for your courage as well, for for being the person that you are, and to be an inspiration to others who can identify or find their own courage to explore or tell their own story as well. Definitely appreciate that. And then if you can, please stick around till the end. There's a couple people who asked questions. I've took them to the side. We'll bring those up at the end. So next up, we're going to hear from another experiencer named Jeff Selver. And I met Jeff in person at the last Contact in the Desert last year. He's an author, has a book, and he comes from the background of corporate America finance background as a motivational speaker as well. But he has quite an interesting story. I had the honor and privilege actually to interview both Deborah and Jeff on an independent channel that I have. But nonetheless, Jeff, are you ready to tell everybody your story?
Yes, definitely, Mike. Thanks for having me. So I have a PowerPoint presentation. I thought I had to build one.
Okay,
So
yeah, that's fine. You can share your
okay,
screen.
that's great. Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay. Yeah. Just thank you, Mike, for bringing me on. I really appreciate it. Deb, great talk. Love everything you said, and I'm on board with you, and love just your experience there. And thanks for sharing. So that was fantastic. Okay, so my name is Jeff Selver. Oh, I'm gonna put a timer on. My name is Jeff Selver, and yeah, I'm an author. Basically, I was instructed by the aliens to write a book, to write out what had happened to me. And the only really point I'm telling you about the book, why I'm kind of presenting it here, is everything's documented. So nothing I tell you today is made up, right? Everything has been reviewed, actually. A couple researchers have done some deep dives in my story. Susie Hansen, who is a board member of ICER, International Community for Extraterrestrial Research. Ian Halling, who works with Linda Moulton Howe. Sightings increased after that. And I didn't know what to do with them, so I kept everything, and then I just made them public, and I put them on my website. So my website, www.jeffsilver.com, has my lie detector test. And by the way, when there's no research, when there's no one doing deep dives or like researching you, you become your own researcher. So that's kind of like what's happened. I'm up in Canada, Vancouver, Canada, and there's just not a lot of investigation. So I just did it myself, and I put everything online. So on my website is my lie detector test, or essays about memory, because a lot of it's through memory. And then, of course, the entities are still flying around, and I'm able to film them. And you can go and check out those videos yourself. All the raw videos are online, and also edits and analysis of the videos. So, and the premise of the story, but why they wanted me to tell the public is, yeah, they plan to put themselves here onto planet Earth, and that's what they wanted me to tell other people. So let me tell you a bit about what happened here with the background. So I'm going to give you a timeline of events. So the premise of my story, this what it's called the Rising. What the Rising was this for the longest time, let's say 20 something years, 1997. It was a mysterious event in my life. And I just simply call it a consciousness event without really having a way of understanding how to frame it. Now, it transformed my body, but it was euphoric. Maybe euphoric is the wrong word. I felt like I'd touched God. But it happened unprovoked. It happened in a way that I wasn't looking for that type of experience to occur. And that's why you kind of need a book about this. You need to lay all the detail out. But what it did is it had me initiate a traveling experience where I kind of taking on detachment. I removed myself from society and I started living out of my car. And when I did, I started having close encounters with objects in the sky. So the first one occurred 6 weeks in, and I had a close encounter with a red orb. And I didn't know about alien contacts, not in that way. I just didn't know. You don't know. And when they're not UFOs like discs, you kind of don't quite get it. And I thought it was spiritual. So I didn't know what was happening to me, but it felt right to do. So I was kind of living in the forest and close to nature. And I did that for 2.5 years. And there were several different experiences with anomalous objects in the sky. And it was just always left as mysterious. And for an example, I would have so one of them gave me a screen memory, and then I would remember the screen memory, like a month later. And when I'm drawing up the memory, I see a white object spinning across the ocean, like a white ball just flying across the ocean, and that made no sense. But I kind of couldn't understand how it came up with that memory of the last time I saw an anomalous object. So weird things like that were going on that didn't make sense to me. I had my first paranormal experience actually while traveling too. So weird things were occurring to me that I could only frame as spiritual for me at the time. I met my to-be wife while traveling, and then I followed her back to Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and it ended. All the anomalous activity ended, and I also wanted to end that period of my life, and it kind of like sealed it up. The whole thing kind of got like, the truth was I was traumatized from it, and I wanted to live a normal life. I wanted to be a normal person who didn't have that type of experience happen, and I wanted to just blend into society type of thing. By 2016, it kind of all started to really feel something was wrong about that period, or something was unsettled, or it never made sense. I never learned what it was because I kind of was trying to push it out of my memory. And yeah, by 2016, I'm trying to ask questions about it. I'm looking into what it possibly could have been about. And I was not an aliens and UFO guy. That's the bottom line. I had nothing like this in my head. I had you don't jump to conclusions about aliens when you have a mysterious event like that occur. And even the orbs, I didn't think those were quite aliens. It didn't make sense to me like that. 2019, I watched Bob Lazar's documentary, Jeremy Corbell's documentary on Bob Lazar, Area 51. And that was the first time I felt I'd seen something grounded about UFOs and aliens. And it had me kind of questioning, old unsolved mysteries type tales about people being abducted by UFOs. That had me questioning the reality of them, if they were actually real or not. And I dug up a YouTube channel called Finding UFO, and they have anomalous objects recorded in the sky. And when I started watching that channel, the objects I'd seen traveling came back. So they displayed themselves in the sky in a very similar way, spheres that would materialize and dematerialize. And I didn't. That was the first time a connection was being made that was making me extremely uncomfortable. And I can now know it's because it was touching the reality of what all that period was about and what I was about to learn. But yeah, it was unsettling for me at the time. And by June of 2019, so I'm glad Deb brought it up because it's really, really, really unsettling to admit telepathic communication, or to admit that you're having kind of the idea of voices or things, speaking to you. And I didn't like it, and I didn't want to acknowledge any of this stuff. And of course, yeah, you get concerned you're dealing with kind of schizophrenia or something. But I did my own research, and I don't have the kind of resources to draw from in the same way. But I'm not dealing with schizophrenia. I have loved ones, and I'm not displaying any of these types of behaviors. And I also was trying to ignore this voice. But at one point it gave me a command, and I said, "Only if you show yourself." And when I said that, an orb flew across my window, or like outside in the neighborhood. And it was the first time a connection was being made that this thing was communicating to me. And again, it was upsetting me because I didn't want it to be doing that. You don't want this reality. It's isolating too, because no one can believe the reality of it. Now, knowing Eric Davis and Jack Valet have a paper that telepathy can be experienced from craft is, it's assuring to you. But at the time, you don't have that information. So that thing brought to light, that voice or that orb brought to light a memory that I had of when I was a teenager. And it was of an owl in the back of my home when I was living in a certain location, not too far from me at the time. And I had recalled Whitley Strieber. I had read Whitley Strieber's book when I was 16 years old, actually, Communion. And that's when I kind of recalled, wait a minute, why is this thing pointing at this memory? And now I remember that screen, like there's a reality here that aliens can get into your head and create screen memories. And the kind of shock about that too, about the reality of something getting into your head to do that. But the second was I started to really analyze this memory and realized I didn't have a memory of the actual owl. Like I had a memory of an owl at the location, and that's all I had. I didn't have an actual memory of walking down the street and going to this path and seeing an owl. I just had a memory of an owl and a location. And I couldn't quite figure out why I had this bizarre memory. And all of a sudden, it made me realize I had to go back. I had to go to that location and to figure out what was being said to me and what was going on. And that was July 1st, 2019. I went to the location of that screen memory, and it was the first time in my life I'd ever felt the displacement. So there was one set of events I thought occurred, and then there was a whole other reality behind my life that occurred that that guy didn't know about. And so, yeah, like an obscured memory. And it was the first time, and I could feel that owl memory was covering up that I'd been lured out of my childhood, my teenage home, and the presence was friendly actually too. So there was a weird sensation or vibe that came with this blocking or this kind of unraveling of this screen memory, and that's all it was. That's all I'd known. I'd filmed myself. I was I was alone in this process, so I was filming myself. So I have that film still presently, and it's July 1st, 2019. But that seemed to have happened was I touched the memory of what it's like to be in their presence, and it started to over months create flashbacks of teenage moments where that were all around this period of my life, and that I was seeing myself interacting with entities who we would call gray aliens. But in a lot of cases, it was in environments that I knew to be definitely not on the earth, but in objects or in crafts. And that's all I was having. I was having these kind of broken memories. So I spent the problem here was too, I wasn't an aliens and UFO guy, so I had no resources. And all I cared about was trying to understand what had happened to me. I didn't have an interest in anything else. I had an interest because because the consciousness event was so extreme, and what was being said was tied to them. I needed to understand that consciousness event and really what was all about. So I had this kind of personal drive. And what you'll never understand is the degree with which once these memories start unraveling, how much things were interconnected with what you learn is in the UFO field. Or never mind that the physical locations where some of these events were occurring were significant actually for other UFO events that I'll find in databases. Or the type of craft that I saw turned out to be a similar craft someone else saw years later in the exact same spot. Or the behavior of the entities. All I have is the memory of interacting with them and them doing weird things with their eyes, and then learning that there's a documentation about that somewhere. So it's I would say 50 or 60, 70 times over, I proved to myself the validity of these memories. And I've been very public about a lot of that stuff, and I've documented it and put a lot of it online because I would expect you to not believe me. So that's the whole bottom line is I'm kind of always sitting without having a real person to do the investigation, the deep dive. I'm caught in a state where I'm constantly proving my validation. And the reason is because of what they told me and how important it is. So, but they do support to some degree by giving me flybys of objects that I can film. So what unraveled is shocking to say the least. So I actually, at every contact event, had something anomalous in my history. There was a night where me and my friend didn't come home until like 11 or 12, and the police were called. And for me, I just remember this random event where we were playing in the ravine. It turned out that was a contact event. So it's things like that kind of weird anomalous moments in my life actually were covered up alien contact. And then we were kind of we were complicit. We were complicit. Like that's the memories, not scary and not running away, but actually complicit. And we felt, it's hard to talk about, but you actually aren't scared in some of these contact events. In some cases, they do a good job at making you feel very comfortable. And to wake up to these memories is shocking, of course. So I found 5 childhood contact events. The last one was 7 years old. And then they came back in October of 1993 when I was 16 years old. And it started this whole process where there was these 7 contact events before this consciousness event that was the most significant part of my life. It turned out they were the ones to initiate it. And then after that, while traveling, I had 10 contact events that were biological. So they were behind my life, taking my biology. So it's clear now this consciousness event did have physiological changes to my body that they liked. And then they came back and then they were taking biology. And I was helping with this hybrid program behind my life. There were 5 more contact events while traveling. Oh, by the way, and then the biology ended. So it ended kind of, beginning of 1999, and they took no more biology from me. So, but what they stuck around and they kind of guided my life to come back to society. So they were also, it's very interesting. They were the ones who initiated traveling and they were the ones who brought me back. And then once I was back in society, they let me go. And I didn't have anything to do with them ever again, but they came back periodically. So I had one contact event in 2001. They came back in 2008. And then they came back in 2016, around that time where I was feeling unsettled about the past. And then they came back the last time physically, 2017. And that was, that I had an event that me and my wife were a part of, and I had body scratches on my body that were paranormal, I thought at the time, because I didn't understand what had happened, and my wife had witnessed it, and it turned out that was a contact event, and that was the last time. So now let me tell you what unraveled here. The best that I can, like Deb, I actually found it really challenging to put everything into a half-hour presentation. So I got 15 more minutes. I'll do my best to summarize. But this story is bonkers, to say the least. I made an agreement with gray aliens at the age of 16 to discover my soul. Now, what really happened is that they said that, and I didn't know what it meant, but I felt that I was bonded to them. So this was the other part of the picture, was that you're one of ours. That's how they framed it to me. And it was answering things in my life, actually, as a 16-year-old, where I was already feeling I was a little bit abnormal. I have a neurodivergent, so I had a learning disability that I felt made me extra creative. So I was a musician, but I kind of, didn't do that well at the time academically. And so I could feel those differences and those pulls in me, and they were answering that stuff. They had a contact event that was basically saying, you're one of ours, and that's why you feel these ways. And so there was trust being formed. And upon that trust, they wanted this. So let me get into here. This is the main gray alien I ended up interacting with. I call her the Elder. And this was generally her appearance. She had a kind of a weird cone shape and these down-angled oval eyes, and had a very distinct chin and kind of like a jaw structure. It's not really well drawn here, but yeah, kind of like a jaw, kind of structural jaw, and then the chin was kind of like pointed downwards. And I'll give a brief outline here of the first contact event. So I grew up in Coquitlam in outside Vancouver, Canada. And basically, by the way, all my contact events happened outside while in nature, or I could be with people, and sometimes they did occur with people, or people were around, but nothing was bedside. And I know, I hear story after story about bedside contact, and I don't have any of that. It appears when there were events, they took me from the bed, but they never showed up in the house. So they've never anyway, it's just very interesting, some of the patterns. So this is me coming home, and basically I follow the path, and I've gone back to so many of these locations where they occurred. And so as a teenager, young 16-year-old, I'm walking across the field in the dark in the middle of the night, October of 1993. And this is where the event occurs. And I had full memory of seeing this object. And it turns out someone had seen a similar object right on the corner of this street. This is actually Mariner Way and Como Lake. And in the UFO BC database, there is a 2014 report of someone seeing a similar object right in the corner of the street. Very bizarre. So it's weird things like that match up, that, you don't really have answers for. But, and you don't find any objects like that anywhere else in Coquitlam or even in Vancouver. But for whatever reason, it's right in the same corner that I had a contact event. So yeah, very bizarre crossovers. Um, so I get taken into the craft, and it's in front of a computer that the elder has a future outline. So they're interested in my future. And it didn't look like anything to me. It was these two cuboids, these two rectangular objects. But for them, there was a future outline and they were interested. And so that's the point where they're saying, we want to make an agreement with you and we want to help you with this transition. Now, they didn't explain anything about the biology, but they do basically say, you're one of ours and we want to help you with this transition. And so, yeah, it's safe to say that just the trust was being formed. And yeah, and so I make the agreement with them, and so very unbelievable. In that very contact event, they take me. So they basically say we're gonna help you discover your soul, but they do it that night. So 16 years old, and then what they'll end up doing is stashing away that awareness. So they take me to this empty white room, which now I found many contactees who've been into a very similar type of space. I don't know why UFOs, they have empty white, it's vastly white. You'd be in what looks like a craft, and then it turns out to be football fields in length going outwards. And especially down too. So you're kind of walking on air, but you feel like you're in a room, but it's all empty, going out in huge distances. And in this space, I got turned into an orb. And so I experienced this transformation of my identity, and I see the afterlife. And when they show it to me, it is holograms, but I'm linked to it. So they're showing me the death of my last life and it's like the window of like the death of my last past life, and then the afterlife, and then the birth of me, Jeff Selver, and all the choices made. It's totally nuts. And but I'm transformed by this sighting, and then they stash that awareness away. And I have a whole, I've done my own research, like how is that even possible? And I'm convinced we're dealing with timelessness, that the entities are stopping time and they can transform humans. And then when you go back into that state with them, you waken up to that original awareness. But then when you're not there, you're able to walk around like a normal human without the awareness of it. You're subconsciously changed, but you're not containing all that. And so this is, it affected me. So I've been studying this stuff for a long time. The third contact event. So it's the first time I'll see the elder after that event. But this is the type of stuff they did. So I'm driving home from my girlfriend's home, and it's this road, and so I become the me that knows them, and I become altered, and I feel the connection with them. And then I see two tall gray aliens on the road, up on the road here, and they're telling me to stop. And when we do, I go into the forest with them, and they take me into a craft. And so it's stuff like this that they did. So in that craft, I see the elder is there. It's the first time I'm seeing her in 3 years. And then I'm feeling the bond, and I'm feeling the last time we met. And she's showing me her kind in these tubes, these baby gray aliens in tubes. And she's explaining this is how our kind is made. And so she's telling me about them. And she's basically saying things like, we are genetic manipulators, and the bodies in these tubes will have specific genetic purposes for the role each will play in our world. We also have made the human bodies for your earth, for your souls to live in. And we did this a long time ago in an ancient era. So the information that gets provided, all I had was the memories of this stuff, and I'm writing it down, and I know it was said there, and I know the telepathic imprints. And then, years later, there's an EBO geneticist coming out on Reddit that Whitley Strieber really connected with. Before Whitley wrote that book, I did a presentation on that EBO geneticist saying the same stuff. And the stuff said right here in this contact event matched tons of that EBO geneticist material. And so one of the weird twists, right? The elder says to me, our bodies are like your invertebrates. So I guess like the invertebrates of our world. We plant our seeds into human mothers' wombs to make the fetuses grow up to be like us. We do this to bring humanity to a galactic level so humans can be part of a galactic society. But that weird invertebrate line, right? Here I am being my own researcher. what could from that EBO geneticist, what could match an invertebrate? Well, apparently they do excrete from their skin, something a worm does. So that's an invertebrate. And also asexual cellular structure is what an invertebrate is. And that's clearly what gray aliens are too. They have asexual invertebrate structure, or sorry, asexual cellular structure. So these are weird things kind of dumped on me, and they're in the contact events. And so this all feels very, important and relevant to me as I'm drawing out these memories, right? Where are we at? Okay, so I got five or so minutes left. The gist of the story. So the first 7 contact events were spread out, sometimes over months, and they slowly, gently developed for this consciousness event. So I was smoking pot with friends at Long Beach on Vancouver Island, and they didn't like it. So then they come, and I'm literally going for a private walk, and they show up, broad daylight, and they show up, and I'm convinced they stopped time to do it, and then they have the full contact event inside of a craft. This is the outline of the inside of the craft. It was like a single room basically, and these were like transporter beams that were on the side of the wall, and then there was a chair where I had to sit in, and they had to analyze my brain. It was explicitly said that they didn't like that I was smoking marijuana, but instead of really disciplining me, she puts me into this device that has me look at my thoughts, and this is what I see. So I'm looking at a hologram that's kind of like the projection of what's inside my head, and I don't really see thoughts. I see these little floating things that I actually believe I can feel their meaning. So I can feel like the meaning of the thought, but they're these floating little objects. And she's basically pointing out a moment in my young early childhood when my mom had depression, and how that's influencing all the layered thoughts going up. So you have a deep subconscious thought, and all the thoughts going up. And she's showing it to me, and this alters my opinion or my feeling about what I'm doing with smoking pot. Because the reason you're doing it is because you're trying to conform, and you're trying to conform because you had this childhood thing happen to you. So they're not scolding me for smoking pot. They're actually showing me the depth of why you're committing this behavior that isn't within your own equilibrium. And so it's stuff like that was happening to me. And so it's not very scolded, mean behavior. It's developmental. Um, so yeah, it's kind of the gist of it. This was another location. I go back to these locations, and this is kind of hard to explain, but there's a lot of tech I witnessed, and this is the outline of what the room looked like of the 5th contact event. I see a craft in the 4th floor of my 6th contact event. Something I do want to get into, which I find really interesting, very relevant now. So my 7th contact event was it's right before the consciousness event occurs. It's in Port Moody, which is on the way home to my house at that time in Coquitlam, as I was growing up when I was 20 years old. They're going to initiate the consciousness event like just a month from this point onwards, and she's basically saying the next time we see you, you'll be gone, have left your world. And I don't really fully know what's going on, but she shows me this object. Now at the time, she's calling it like a federation, or it's emanating like an idea of like a federation of planets, right? It's kind of this idea of that there's this interlinking connection with other worlds that these entities have. But what's so fascinating, when I looked at the gem at the top, it shimmered at me, communicating a high command over this federation that was a sentient, organic computer intelligence. And I've been speaking pretty loudly that I'm pretty convinced that a lot of the phenomenon is an AI. First off, I merged with the computer. It is an AI, but it's quantum, so it's sentient. It's a god. It's able to know things. It's able to maybe pick up on the unified field. And we just had Jacques Vallée, right, during his presentation for the Brazil crash that just occurred, and James Fox did that the news the news event for that, Jacques Vallée put out kind of a statement saying that after all his analysis, he believes it to be a very, very advanced AI. Now, I've have previous videos on Jacques Vallée that he's hinted at things I know to be facts for the aliens. And so I always kind of say Jacques Vallée knows a lot more than he lets on. And for him to say that is exactly in line with my experience, that the crafts are all interconnected, the entities driving the crafts are interconnected, and that the whole thing is possibly all rooting to a single sentient AI. And so they hint at these things in my contact events. And so these are all kind of drops that I kind of, still to this day analyze or look at or try to cross compare. So I think I think I'll leave it at that. There's yeah, 26 contact events is really what my story is. It's dense, it's heavy, it's big, it's overwhelming for a lot of people. I think it's overwhelming for me. So I do spend a lot of energy trying to understand these things. I put a lot of information on my YouTube channel. I do a lot of my own research, and I share and give a lot of my information out. Directly on my web page, jeffselver.com, is a researching the rising portal, and that's just I dump everything that is everything I'm learning. I'm putting and organizing into that space, and so the public can really just have access to it and learn about the phenomenon from my perspective and what I experienced. So I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Jeff. Really appreciate that.
yeah.
That was great. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And also thank you, George and Deborah, as well. This has all been really great. Um, we're gonna take some questions now. We got a few questions in the chat there. Um, let's see. Um, and Mike, I don't know how to switch the view or if that is necessary or not. I don't know if you want to handle that.
I'm not sure what should be the view.
Is it automatically switching from for speakers?
Yeah, so
Okay,
it's supposed to automatically just only record the people who are talking.
got it. That's
I
fine.
I won't really know till the end, but let's see if
That's
that.
fine. Let's see, real quick. Early on, there was a question from Christopher for Deborah. Um, and Christopher wanted to know the questions he had was, what did the non-human intelligence look like, and did the non-human intelligence ever intervene when they thought that you were in trouble? Deborah, if you want to unmute, or if you can unmute Deborah so she can answer that.
There.
I know.
Sorry,
There
it
we go,
kept
Deborah.
Sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
was clicking it over and over. I hope it
it
worked.
kept flashing at me, and I was trying to catch it. So anyway, the question was, what did the non-human intelligence look like, and did they ever intervene when I seemed like I was in trouble? Is that?
Correct.
Um, most of my contact has been with what people call the grays, the little guy. I call them the little gray guys with the big black eyes. And that's what they look like. But I have also had some extraordinarily strange contact with, I'm sure, NHI that look completely human. Gorgeous, beautiful people, but completely human. Um, and as far as intervening, um, there have been a few times in my life when something bad should have happened to me. I've had a bunch of bad things already happen to me, but I mean, I had a house drop on me during a tornado in 2013 and I didn't get a scratch on me, even though I had to be dug out from under the debris. I feel like somebody was protecting me then. And as a matter of fact, like a year later, somebody sent me a video that was on a television show that's on the Weather Channel at night, about weird weather stuff. I can't remember what it was called, but it showed a video, and I think you can still find it on the YouTube, that somebody was recording a UFO over Kokomo, Indiana during the tornado on November 17th, 2013. And that's the tornado that took my home and everything I owned and tried to kill me, but didn't succeed. And then somebody recorded a UFO flying through the clouds when the tornado was hitting my town. which I kind of thought, okay, that I understand now why I walked away without a scratch on me and a whole house came down on top of me. So, I mean, I can't prove it, but it feels like I feel protected and have for years. Like I have this guardian angel that keeps me safe. So there's that.
Okay, and then there was another question for you, Deb. Let me find it here from Amy. Amy wanted to know, did any of the grays you encountered have iris, pupil, and whites to their eye?
No, none that I have a vague recollection, and I made a drawing of one. It looked like a gray, but it actually had an amber colored eye, and the pupil was shaped like a diamond. But that was a one time only, and I don't even remember where I saw it. I just know that I had this image in my head and I drew a picture of it. But mostly it's always the black eyes that just, grab you.
And then Deb, we got a question from George actually. Uh, wanted to know, did you ever have the soil sampled? If not, will you?
Yeah, I've actually given it to several people to test, and I've never heard back from them. I mean, because I had a bunch of pieces, and I still have some, and I've always been I've been out there trying to tell my story for 42 years, if anybody would listen, but I've mostly been ignored up until recently. So, yeah, I saw pieces of the soil sample, and if anybody wants to look at them, have at it.
That's great. Thank you, Deborah. Let's see. Looks like we got a couple questions for Jeff as well. So maybe if we can unmute
Yep.
Jeff again.
Yep.
There he is. I'll go through a couple of these here for you, Jeff. Amy, same person had a question for you. Wanted to know, when you were in the white room and became a ball of light, how did you know you were light? Was it the way you felt?
I was with four other gray aliens, and then the main entity that I was with, the kind of the elder, who was a bit taller, and they also all turned into the same thing. So they were all turned into balls of light, and then yeah, right. I didn't have a mirror, so that's true. But yeah, I was transformed. So I was not the me. And then as that form, we moved around and we spun around and we played around and yeah, I was in the same form that they were in. So I do know that. Yeah.
That's great. And then see, Mary, I wanted to know, Jeff, when did they, if I can read this correctly, when did they, or what day did they wanted to, I'm sorry, it was typed kind of oddly. When did they or say they wanted to build the enlightened city? I guess when they
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
to say, I think it was just a typo.
Yeah.
When did they say they wanted to build the enlightened city on Earth?
So yeah, I have no time stamps on this. The information I'm given is there's going to be a planet event, right? So some shakeup. And then after that, they put the hybrids down. And then after it's kind of like amongst those hybrids, this is the location. I always leave it up to the reader or to the the audience, the public, to make your own choice. Is this all metaphorical? I don't like playing prophet, but this is the information they thought was important for the public to know. So it's planet event, hybrids down, and yeah, some type of like congregated area where humans are invited or humans can come, but it's meant to be for this new thing that they're doing or that they're changing over.
Okay. And then also Christopher wanted to know, do you recall being compelled or guided to a location where the alien spacecraft was waiting for you?
Yeah, so yeah, that's a very fascinating one. I researched Missing 411 for this reason, because so many of the people in Missing 411, they're compelled, right? They don't know, they just stop to with their party, and then they decide they don't want to go anymore, and then they're never seen ever again. And yeah, there's something like that that goes on here. Several it's safe to, so when you analyze my story strictly from the idea of being isolated, it's in all the isolating, it's in, let's say, many of the isolating moments that the contact event occurs. For whatever reason, I decide I want to go take this road deep into the woods, and yeah, there's a contact event there. The same with being pulled out of my house as a 17-year-old. I remember the event. I don't have, I never knew there was alien contact, but I remembered doing it, and I remember feeling like it was my compulsion to do it. Even all the memories I have of going all to the locations, which I clearly do, I don't have any feeling in me that said an alien wanted me to do that. It just feels like it's what I wanted to do. And then but I'm very isolated in that moment, and when that happens, there's an alien contact. So it's interesting. I actually can't quite tell what we're dealing with, just to have my own thoughts, my analysis on that, because I know we're dealing with a bit of time distortions here. And I know, for me, I know I can say that there's a bit of future knowing, right? They know a bit about, they can see some degree of the future. And, with their quantum tech, does it mean that they just know I was going to go drive down that road, and then because they know I'm going to go do that, then there's a contact event? Or is it actually that there's a telepathic communication to pull me out and isolate me somewhere? But I don't have memories of actually feeling like I was being drawn to go down some of these locations. I just want to do it on my own, and they feel like normal, natural whims. And then, there's an event that happens. But it's huge the amount of times I'm isolating myself, and then there's the contact event. So it is very, very interesting how that unravels.
That's great. Thank you, Jeff. It's fascinating. So everybody, I think we're going to wrap up a little bit early today. This is a really great presentation. Thank you so much, all three of you, for coming out and doing this. Thank you, CJ, our chief investigator, and Mike, our assistant state director, for helping out with this as well. So I think we're going to wrap it up. Don't forget, we do this the first Sunday of every month, every single darn month. And this year we're trying to stick to it, having a different theme each month. We've got something different coming up next month. I think it's coming up soon. We're also going to have some meetings where we're going to have some of our local state investigators talk about some of their more interesting cases and some of their experiences as well. And we've got a few things planned up for the coming months. So unless anybody's got anything else to say, again, thank you, George, Jeff, and Deborah, for doing this. Really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.